IFRS actually in 2013 brought this vertical balance sheet and all. They are the key makers in the finance market. Only that US is not following them. But interestingly, what is being seen is that they have this international accounting standard board. But 2 months before, in the COP26, that is COP26 is a climate conference, happens every year. It happened in Glasgow in the Scotland last year, in 2 months back. And they initiated, or they just announced that they are introducing a new standard called IFRS sustainability standards. You should see that the global financial regulator is announcing a new standard for sustainability. They don't have a standard for operations or governance or data or even any other department, but they are releasing a standard for sustainability and a separate board, not even bringing it under the purview of IFRS. No, they are creating a separate board, which is a huge thing in the financial market. And what is another interesting point is that this standard is having separate trustees, separate board who are governing these standards and not even influenced by the financial standards, which shows that how essential or how critical sustainability issues has become in the market. Now, speaking of which, I'll show you, like in classically when people start reporting what no you know people publish this stuff, financial report. Now, a financial report usually consists of a vertical statement, cash flow analysis, ratio analysis, and other related financial analysis. And there are also companies who classically report CSR. Now, this was the scenario until 2015-16 and all. Later, many countries mandatorily require companies to report integrated report. What is integrated report? Now, if you check the US stock exchange, they want integrated report. When it comes to South African or European Union, recently want the integrated report. When the UK want integrated report, they are the one who introduced it. Now, what does that mean is that no, investors doesn't want to look only on your financial reports. They want ESG things to come in. Now, apart from financial, as you can see here, manufacturer or manufacturer related, intelligent, human, social relationship, and natural related information should go on a report. And right now, integrated report is also seen as a separate report, like finance report and sustainability report. I'll just show you how Goldman Sachs uh, a report looks like. So you see, why I brought Goldman Sachs as an example is because they are a financial service company and an investment banking company. An investment and financial service company is releasing a separate sustainability report. See, and they are not even publishing any financial values in this. They're exclusively. Why would a finance company does it? Because that shows the increasing importance of sustainability. Maybe you guys already know about this, but this also means that there is a booming demand for people and professionals in the market. Now, it's easy for me to uh, say this. I should also give you the route map on how to track or how to achieve a job in sustainability, which I'll sooner speak. Now, I will, before leading you to the ESG resources and things like that, I will just take you to the changes driven by ESG and what are the key things happening in the market. The first thing is that the ESG linked KYC. Now think that you are going to take a car loan or any loan or even educational loan, and you are only going to get a KYC. You would be needing a KYC approval, of course, to open a bank account and all. But think that you are also asked an approval on the terms of ESG. For example, let's take E. They are asking you how much emission did you emitted for the last 1 year, and if you let's assume that the government is already tracking your emissions through your utility bill and car fuel consumption, and they come to know that you are emitting more than the adequate amount which is given to you, and you are getting rejected your bank loans for that. Now think about such scenarios where you are being no rejected for a loan because you drove 10,000 kilometers by your car instead you are actually supposed to only drive 5,000 kilometers, because the future is getting affected, because each time you drive a car, the emission is burning glaciers and affecting the whole environment. Now I'm not telling this will come to you as a personal scenario. Of course, this will come maybe after 50 years. There will be carbon taxes on individuals, and the people should be liable for what they are emitting, and you will all be having quotas for getting petroleum. But I hope that Hyperloop future will come soon, and we needn't bother too much on that. But what I was trying to tell is that the whole corporations who are applying for a bulk amount of bank loans and debt fund are being scrutinized just like in this scenario. If a company like Panasonic is going to a bank in Argentina, they are being valued. I'm not telling it is there with every banks, but companies with banks with ESG KYCs are scrutinizing companies on basis of GHG emissions, women equality happening there. They have an ESG metrics as such. One of the example is this bank. As you can see, this is Banco Bilbao Argentaria. It's a Spanish bank, and BBVA is commonly known as. You see, they have a sustainability linked IRS as well as ESG rating linked loan. So if a company is going there, they will have a high chance of getting rejected if they are not having an ESG department in place, first of all, and they don't have an ESG report to start rating. Now you need a report to start rating, right? Then only you will get a loan, first of all. The companies will run around to create an ESG department and to find employees who know something about ESG or have an ESG internship experience or something. Now, that is the whole scenario with the ESG in KYC. Now, another scenario I like to bring is the venture capitalist fund. I don't know. Many of you already know what is a venture capital is, or what an angel investor is. So, to those 5% or 10% who doesn't know much about it, I'll just give a glimpse. Venture capitalists are people who invest in an early startup during the pre-seed or seed days, and they are the one who doesn't bother much about your business, but they'll bulkily invest in your business and have a stake in your business. And after maybe 5 years, they either withdraw their fund once you are boomed enough, or they sustain their fund. So basically, they are investors in a startup. Now, venture capitalists, especially companies like BlackRock's, what they are doing is that they are not only starting investing in ESG driven companies, but they have started withdrawing funds. That is the investing part, because once you get 5 million fund, companies are withdrawing the fund from your company. Think about that scenario. It's weird, right? You are being a hero in the Silicon Valley, and you're getting 5 million, and suddenly in the next couple of years they are withdrawing your fund because the CEO had a weird attitude towards a particular community or a particular gender. Now that shouldn't be promoted, and such actions are driving. Now what I'm telling is, like, this is also another example, because I personally have seen many sanctions in companies paying in multi-millions because of bias issues, gender bias issues, and racial bias issues, and especially in the US and UK. Now, and another use case is the ESG driven aviation. And when I speak about it, you might have already noted that Malaysian Airways and many other aviations have started having sustainable aviation, because each time you travel, you emit around 1 metric ton carbon emission, which is around, you need to recover that, you need to plant around 5 trees, and these 5 trees takes around 20 years to capture that air travel emission. And this is the scenario in the world. So sustainable aviation, biofuel, and things like that are also driven. So this is something operational people might be interested to know, or some other who is more technical would be interested to know that in the aviation supply chain and all, it's very essential that nowadays the renewable energy is being used. And another thing is that it's not just being in operations right now. It's being in operations also means that you clear cutly assess the supply chain, the inbound and outbound, what's happening there when it comes to sustainability issues. And of course, the ESG department will be aligning with operations to find the issues and assess the supply chain. These are all the new trends happening when it comes to aviation. Another thing is when it comes to green product checkouts. Now, when it comes to green product checkouts, now you might have seen that when you nowadays what's happening is that when you buy a book, immediately companies are helping you also invest in fund for planting trees to offset the peppers, or when you start buying an air ticket, you are getting offsetted. You can actually purchase the carbon offset using the airlines platform. The airlines like KLM Airlines, immediately in the checkout process, you can actually offset for the aviation fuel. Or for example, as I said before, you can actually plant 5 trees the moment you take the flight ticket. And even for the debit card payment, uh, they are doing the same. They are no, you don't, I don't know if you know about this, but for every debit card payments you make, there are huge servers running around for the banks, and there are emissions happening. For those also, offsets are being maintained. Now, one last use case scenario is the crypto market and the fashion industry. I know it would be very new to you, things like this, and it would be much boring for a few people. But I can understand that, because much times I have been on the other side than this side when I was studying in SOMS. But having said that, it is my curiosity to let you know something new happening in the market. And if there is only 1% of the students who are really interested, that's a good take for me. Now, this is the last use case I want to discuss it with you. One is a ESG driven crypto market. As you know that in the crypto market, the Bitcoin or any other coins is highly criticized, when even if they have good projects, or even if they have good things to back up their coin, they are criticized for energy efficiency. For example, Bitcoin is having more emissions than Norway as a country. So what is that? No, for me, as personally, I didn't knew much about Bitcoin until 3 months before one of my friend introduced me Bitcoin or cryptocurrency. But I wasn't much believed. Then later came to know that many long name currencies are being even backed up by Starbucks for transactions. That's when you realize that there is an alternate market being built. And that market, you see, if some investors are there in here, you must check the emissions as well, because the future is driven by energy efficiency. If you take coins like Hedera or Cardano, if you are a trader, you must see that there is a huge hike for them whenever they release their emission reports. And I have seen that personally in my investments as well. And another thing is in fashion and sustainability. Now, when it comes to fashion, it's not the old fashion. Now people doesn't bother about like it's in olden days, people doesn't bother from where the fabric comes from. But right now the scenario has changed, especially when it comes to Western people, because the US and Europe are criticized to be emit more than 60% of the global emissions. So I may be wrong in the statistics here. It's around 60 to 50. But what I'm telling is, like, there the people are having regret when they buy a shirt. They are having regret, and they are not having a good feel. They, because they are becoming conscious consumers. They're afraid that whether they are hurting their future, or hurting other countries, or hurting other people in India or African or southern region where emissions are less. Now these thoughts have created in the fashion industry, if there is any fashion enthusiast here, the whole industry is turned into sustainability, or trying to be into sustainability. And there are many opportunities in the fashion industry, and there are many people who are right now working in the fashion sustainability industry, where you ensure that the fabrics are coming from the right country, where they are carbon neutral and things like that. Are there any questions here, or am I bringing things new and you don't have any doubts here, or are you
So
guys
actually,
pretty clear?
Razi, we have a question from Giridhar. I mean,
Perfect.
he has asked a recent coal prices across the world in general and
Mhm.
India in particular. Then now we have NTPC signing long-term purchase agreements coal
Mhm.
from Adani's Queensland plant.
Mhm.
If my knowledge is right, SBI was only bank willing to fund $2 billion for Adani's Australia plant. On the other hand, SBI had also issues green bonds. How do you account for such steep differences in their actions or policies? It is there in chat box if you want
So
to.
this is a very interesting questions. Now, personally, how do we account now when it comes to regulators in the sustainability market? Do you know that coal was tried to be getting banned already in many countries, but there are two point of views here. Now, one thing is that as a country, India, we are still, or southern countries, or not the west countries, southern countries are still in its developing phase, and we need coal as a factor for bringing the economy up. But when it comes to western countries, they can't criticize because they are already developed and they are having already emissions more than 60%. But when companies like Adani still back up coal, that is an issue as well. There are two sides of the coin here. And what happened in the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce Summit, actually, we had a virtual expo space in the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, and I personally attended the event, virtual event online. And what happened there was in the final point where the whole globe, we're going to sign the agreement on boycotting coal because of the China's and India's disinvolvement. The agreement was not being signed to ban as such, but it again went to reduce it until 2070. What does that explicitly mean is that we can still use coal, which is bad for the environment when we see on an environmental perspective, and when we see on a development perspective, it is good for India because we can't just immediately transform into coal-free environment where we are yet to develop in many regions as well because we are the vastest country in the world. So what can we do? Because it's easy to say that there are suicides a problem, but what can we do as individuals is that for companies like Adani, what can they do is that if they have a profit, excess profit, they should set aside funds for finding renewable sources. Now, second thing is that start offsetting. Offsetting can happen in various ways. From planting trees to carbon capture to initiating windmill or even donating to African clean energy projects, things like that. Companies can do that and be net neutral. That is where a company can become net neutral or net zero. Now, companies like Adani can start projects like this, of course, but ensure that they double offset or offset for the equivalent, and ensure that once their agenda is done, they should also ensure to close down the plant or whatever it is and start moving renewable when it is economical to afford. But I still believe that companies like Adani can stop it, but it's not my call because even the United Nations stopped the call because of China and India's involvement in this COP26, which is a very shock and the whole climate activist. I hope I answered.
Yes, sir, that does answer.
Perfect. Now, any other questions or any other comments from the crowd? I'll try to stop it as soon as possible.
Sir, there are some questions. If I'm audible, can I ask?
Perfect.
Okay, so talking about taking the case of again Adani, because we have Adani's Queensland plant. It was really famous case. It is famous case, but now we hear that they have started shipping it from there. But you must have heard Adani Greens as well. One of the reasons why he's gained probably the highest amount in terms of market cap or his net worth, as share prices rose, was because his investments in green projects, solar projects, etc., really took off. And, I guess he's added more than Reliance as well in his market cap. So he has, on one hand, Adani Greens, which somehow produces power from green energy, such as solar, etc. On the other hand, of course, he's invested his own capital because most of the financial institutions did not back up the project because otherwise they would have faced a stiff protest from Australia or Australian public, so they didn't go ahead with it. But there is this great disparity, not just by Adani, but also by SBI. As I said, that SBI on the one hand, it has green bonds. There are investors purchasing these green bonds of SBI, subscribing to it. And then we have SBI also willing to sort of fund $2 billion to
Okay.
Adani's Queensland plan. And then again, we have international solar alliance, wherein all these countries that lie between the, like such as especially these southern ones, as you said, African nations, India, and all these countries. So they have this alliance, and I guess its headquarters is based in Gurgaon. So we have target of investing $1 trillion in producing solar power by 2030.
Yeah.
But till now, at least till the Trump government was there, there were no signs that from where this money is going to come, because none of the developed nations were willing to provide us with that much capital on one hand, and then they were preaching us that, hey, you know what, you should not go ahead with coal-backed power plants, etc. You should reduce the emissions. So we are doing it because it's going to affect our future, not because we the per capita emission is abysmally low in our case. But where is the technology and money coming from? Do you really see that happening as it is expected from, especially in in countries like India? Are we going to get that much investment or that much capital support from these developed nations, as well as the technology?
Perfect. So there are two things, and the capital and technology. And the third thing is, the first thing you will be asking us about the scenario of Adani being green and green tech, right? So let me answer that before answering the second question, which was about fund and technology. And when it comes to let me speak here. When it comes to Adani, you said that, like, okay, even in SBI they tried to issue green bonds, and Adani tried to invest more in green stuffs, and try to and on this side they are having coal plants. Now there is an essential difference when it comes to ESG, being net neutral or carbon neutral and being net zero. Anybody can become carbon neutral. Carbon neutral is when a company is what having cutting down all the trees and planting equivalent amount of trees. That is when a company is becoming carbon neutral. If you search is Adani Group carbon neutral, you might find possibly yes, we are the first power company in supercritical, whatever it is, reduce carbon emissions, and they are carbon neutral as well. So is let me check in this way, is Adani net neutral? You see, yeah, become net neutral in 2020, but it doesn't mean that they are net zero. What the climate strategist and even the COP26 or even the United Nations is proposing is becoming net zero by 2030 or becoming net zero by 2050. So what does that mean is that it's okay that you invest in green, but you should stop cutting down trees, you should stop the coal plants, then start becoming green. You should issue green bonds, okay, but you should stop what is having a root cause issue there. So everyone, especially in the global market, knows that Adani as a company, Adani Group as a company is net neutral, but they are not net zero. So the whole picture is that it is okay to be net neutral, of course, because they are being neutral, but the whole globe knows that you are not net zero, and that definitely there is a value reduction because of that. If a company is net zero, then your value goes in a different way. Now, speaking of fund, every year the developed countries in the COP26 are supposed to provide an equivalent fund. I don't know what was the term used. It's called some deposit or something. If somebody knows, may put in the chat. But you see, there are billions of funds going into the climate fund through United Nations. Now, another thing is that when it comes to Donald Trump regulations, his administration said they won't be ready to give the fund. Why would the hell would they give the fund? But when Biden came, he came back to United Nations scope and he signed for giving the NDC or some fund. I don't remember the exact name, but what I'm telling is that the funds are there, and every country is being allocated fund. Just that we are not seeing it because maybe because of the bureaucracy. Who knows? because getting fund and taking actions are different. But good thing is that many things are being changed in India, and there are progressions happening, and let's hope that there would be much changes too happening. And when it comes to technology, there are companies working on technology as well. But just that companies shouldn't hesitate to adapt it. When it comes to sustainable aviation, there is sustainable aviation fuel existing, but Malaysian Airlines started using it, but not every airlines in across the globe. When they start using adapting it, because of course it will cost more than what is actually costing. It's all about break even and the profit. So yeah, it depends upon the acquisition of the technology. Otherwise, there are technology for carbon accounting. There are technologies for even capturing your emissions, your personal emissions. There are technologies for every issue, starting from supply chain assessment. Just that it is the job of an ESG analyst to find the right technology and bring into the business. I hope I answered and I didn't miss any.
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Now I'll move on. I think I'll try to wind up in the next 10 minutes. I hope so, and we'll take the further questions towards the end. Yes, of course. And no. I said too much about what's happening in the market. What's happening with professionals? No, if somebody here already, or many of us already might have watched Friends, and in Friends, Chandler Bing, if people didn't watch him, I apologize for deviating you from here. But in the towards the final season, Chandler Bing resigns his job as a statistical analyst and a data analyst, data reconfiguration job, and he sits simply for 1 month, I think. Then he moved to a new field. He didn't stick in those analytics field. No, basically he was bored, but also he was enthusiastic to do something new, which is emerging in the market. And to my knowledge, he was doing the advertising and copywriting stuff. And he started off as an intern, even though he was very much experienced in the management. He started off as an intern. After internship, he grabbed a good position in that company. And why would I say that? This is exactly happening in the ESG market, because people doesn't know what to do, and they are switching from their actual career. Not everybody, again, people who are risk takers, who fight their comfort zone and exit their current position, and they are even starting positions as interns to know the sustainability market. Why would I say this here? A 20-year experienced guy, if he's quitting and starting as an intern, why don't you guys start your fresh career as in sustainability? I'll show you an example of one of my friend. I'm not picking up his name. This guy, you should see his profile. Started his career as a project coordinator, then in the sales in 2009 and 2008 he started actually. Now later he becoming a branding expert in Cherry car. You might all know the Cherry car, which is an international brand of car. And then he becomes sales. Basically, he was working in the sales and marketing wing as a CRM manager, sales. Basically, it's sales and marketing and branding. But you should see a guy with experience since 2008 to 2019, 2021. That is like a 13 plus years experience. Started off again as a sustainability intern. Exactly what equates what Chandler Bing did in Friends. He's one of my LinkedIn connection and personally called him many times and uh, for knowledge shares. This guy is amazing. And this is what's happening in the whole ESG market as well. Like I said about the Ayurvedic doctor worked with me before. Now it's your call, like whether you should jump into this or not. Of course, there are various other openings for
What's the
you.
name of the person, sir?
No, I
I'm
can't, I
sorry.
can't, because it's
Oh,
all about ESG. I can't reveal the name, right? So this is a snapshot from the LinkedIn. But what I am trying to say here is that um, it's all about taking that risk. Like you might have seen people going gym and all, and you would wait for one friend to hit the gym with you, but you never, or there would be people who already works out, of course. They would be having fit body, but I'm speaking about the remaining 60% who doesn't hit the gym. You always think about going to the gym with a friend, but you never try to become that friend who goes to the gym first and creates friends there, and eventually your friends turn out to come and join you guys to the gym. So the whole sustainability market is a gym, and it mostly gym is perceived as weightlifting, but it's not. It's all about good diet, good fitness, also good sleep. You should have portion control, weightlifting, cardio, everything should be a mix. Likewise, the whole ESG market is perceived like a gym because people usually think it's all about weightlifting, like it's all about tree planting, or it's all about paperless, or it's all about plastics. It's not. It's a massive thing, and people should know what's happening there actually. And that is why I'm inviting you to this gym. And if you guys are very much interested, I can show you what are the learning platforms there. And I'm sorry I couldn't reveal his name. Maybe I have asked him I should publish, but I haven't. I requested. He has requested me not to show his name. And the second thing, no, no, I'll move on to show you that. What no, it is easy for me to preach that, invite you to become in the sustainability market, but when it comes to interview, of course, I am pretty damn sure that you guys can grab a job in the sustainability market, because I had without any prior experience. But what I was also trying to tell is that there are free learning platform from United Nations, as you can see here, which gives certifications on various unlimited topics, starting from carbon emission and everything. You guys just need to register. I'll share this deck after the call so that you guys can make use of this. And also, when it comes to paid certification, there is GRI. GRI is a standard used by more than 250 Fortune 500 companies in reporting their ESG. And they have their own reporting certification. I mean, sustainability professional certification. Anybody can take that. It costs around 1 lakh rupees, but if you spend 25,000, you can actually take a no exam certification, 3 out of 5 grade points. And it is like supporting a sustainability GRI reporting certification, which is well and good. I have took that already, and anybody can take it, but you'll get a basic premise of what's happening in the market. And another one is that if you are much interested to know about greenhouse gas accounting and emissions, Microsoft has an amazing module prepared. This was recently sent to me, but it's very recent, but they explained in detail what are how to calculate emissions and things like that. Even Microsoft, trust me, is using Excel tool at this point in time, as to give away to the other companies. They have their own system, of course, but even in this, if you check, they have hyperlinks to Excel sheet. Now, that is how unmature the market is. And there are tools developing, but the right tool like SAP is still in developing. And there are also 33 other certification courses in the market. You can also fetch through that. I'll share this deck after the presentation to Harsha, and you guys can have a detailed look at this as well. Now, when it comes to uh, uh, yeah, so that was it. So what about MBAs? So why would I say this to you is that now no, usually people in the whole ESG field is having around 0 to 12 years experience. Even the 12-year experience guy would be having 8-year experience in a finance department and move to ESG at some point in his life. And who's actually, that is where your opportunity comes in. You know what, like usually a consultant role at EY requires 8 years experience to get hired. But right now, my colleagues at S&P Global are getting hired in EY as consultants with just 2 years experience, because there is a lack of supply in the market. Now, that is where you should see the uptrend in jobs in the market. And exactly who is doing the reporting now? Big fours are doing ESG reporting now, the finance and assurance team, and very less proportion of ESG experienced people, and standalone reports like by random consultancies. Now, what you guys can do is like pitch into any rating companies and create your profile there and switch companies. It's my third company by this March. Yeah. So what does ESG strategies do? As I said, they do all these things, but essentially they does ESG plug and play. As you said, technology, finding the right technology for any ESG issues. And for finding that issue, you should do materiality analysis. Materiality analysis is simply finding the problems and risk factors in the whole company. For example, for a company like Amazon, the issue will be in the supply chain, while a company like in the petroleum, Bharat Petroleum will be having issues in the transmission of oil, like fugitive emissions. And when it comes to fashion industry, the issue is different. Aviation, it's about fuel and other things, customer handling, things like that. So identifying such issues and sending the management and board surveys and fetching metrics is what materiality analysis is about. If you take that KPMG course, they will have give you a detailed explanation about how to do this. And there are works like ESG reporting preparation people do, carbon accounting. I'm a personally a carbon accountant built, and also there are people does ESG ratings. Now, when it comes to data providers, these are a few companies. I'll share this deck with you where you can apply job. These are the rating companies: S&P Global, Sustainalytics. Definitive was earlier with Reuters, but right now being acquired by some other company. And yep. And this, I know I'm running out of time. I'll try to wind up in 1 minute. No. I am lucky because I got naturally entered into this. Because earlier I was being hired, I was attending in an interview for financial analyst role in S&P Global. I got rejected, and I got that job via LinkedIn. I applied to that job via LinkedIn. That's how I got the lead last year in 2019. But when I got rejected, I wrote a very good mail to that HR, and during the HR round, even that HR liked me. But the head of finance couldn't impress by my performance. But HR, interestingly, maybe impressed by the mail or something, reverted back to me with this ESG opportunity. That's how I naturally fall and came to know that ESG was in existence. Because before I didn't even knew that ESG was there, or ESG was this much trending in the market. Now, why I would say that now that you are lucky is that you guys are lucky, because I just told you that this thing exists, which nobody did when I was studying MBA, and which is a good thing, right? You guys can start learning at least and start experiencing or start researching about this market and understand what's happening in this market, even if you are not interested to work in this market. Or if you eventually getting interested, start your own startups or getting hired there in a company, or getting hired in a rating agencies. Because as I mentioned in my slide, uh, our professors used to say when we are in NIT, MBA means being jack of all trades. It's not about knowing about everything. It's about knowing something about everything. Trust me, this process helps, because knowing something about everything gives you a heads up in many things. You won't get fooled by any IT head when they bluff about things. So as a whole, what I'm telling is that there are opportunities like this. I'll share the deck. If you have any doubts, if you need a clarity on the carbon emissions, you can always ask me. So that was it. If you guys have any further questions, you can shoot it now. Yeah.
Okay, Razi, I'll just ask one question. It is regarding the attitude that one should be having when he is into this ESG. So, is it just technically you should be, good at the technical skills that you need, or will it be better if we have an attitude towards, green and diversity, or like, green
Mm.
and environmental
Okay.
consciousness? So, how does that matter, the attitude?
Technicals, I think not much required, because I personally am not from a technical background. I am a BCom holder in finance and accounting, and I did my MBA in finance, marketing, and BI. But I'm not a technical specialist, but I could sustain the market. So that technically means that anybody could. If I can do this, anybody can, as everybody says. And second thing, attitude, green culture. You make that over a period of time. I was not a green passionate person, but I made after knowing, researching that okay, I should offset to my personal emission for the last year. I should plant some trees. Likewise, you become green. And when it comes to attitude, you should have a good attitude, because this ESG is something resisted by many people, many directors. Tech directors may not be much interested in ESG, or finance directors may not be much interested, because this is an extra budget going. So change management should be integrated in the right place. You should convince people. You should make them feel that this is a new thing. Culture, bringing the culture. You are the culture maker in the ESG. So it's a task. That's the only task I felt personally. Apart from that, attitude, the normal working culture, that's enough. Skill set, that's fine. You just need to have passion to research on things which you doesn't know, because Google is there.
Okay, great, Razi, perfect.
Excuse me, I have a question, Razi.
Mhm.
The in a country like India, what is the scope of ESG? Because I am working currently on ethical consumption, and studying from the consumer's point of view, whenever communications about ESG are provided, consumers automatically assume it is a greenwashing.
Mm-mm.
Uh, so, uh, so what is the scope of ESG in India?
So there are many companies, including I think it's Yes Bank, which is no HDFC actually. HDFC is leading in the whole rating. The scope is uptrend in uptrend. Many companies, greenwashing is a thing. Yes, absolutely. But to cover up that, there are ESG assurance scope openings in India. ESG assurance team. You should really see this. The EY last month, I mean this year only, is planning to create its new sustainability corporate sustainability and service team, sorry, climate service and sustainability team, or CSA, is some team like EY is forming. Just last year they started hiring this year. So there is uptrend in the market, and because assurance is coming in, once assurance is in the picture, just like auditing financial statements, if this comes, you should see the uptrend. They will be high. And second thing to back up that is that now the market is moving more towards quantified data instead of sticking towards qualitative data, just like planning trees or policies. People need to see that how much emission is being offsetted. So trends are changing. So everything is being quantified and everything is being assured. And at this point in time, even Amazon, as a big multi-tycoon company, they only have one page assurance report. I have seen that, and this is literally a bad thing. But once the assurance team is up and running in the next 2 to 3 years, it will be in great uptrend. I hope I answered.
Yes, thank you.
Perfect. Anything else, or shall we? I think we already ran out of time.
One question, sir.
Perfect.
So what is the situation of like startups in this ESG field uh, in India?
Yeah. That is one interesting question. Now, between, if anybody, I know this is the mess time for you if you guys are in the hostel. Are you guys still working? I mean, offline or online class?
We are offline, so we are
So
in
no
hostels.
no mess issues. But if you guys need to drop out your call for anything else important, you may, because time is very important. Now, answering Aquil's question, and now startups. Speaking of startups, I don't know if you know ADNOC. ADNOC is a leading company in UAE, and one of my friend came to me to do the consulting, and he didn't mention me the company. And I just, what I did is that I passed on that project to one of my friend who's having startup in India, who doesn't even have any projects to back up. And interestingly, after fetching the project, I just inquired which was the company. He doesn't even know ADNOC. ADNOC is 8,000 plus crore turnover company. And I was literally dumbstruck, because non-experienced startup is getting leading government companies to get assessed and assured. And because the expert doesn't know the work, or they are afraid to take up the work, because of course they are subcontracted. But for startups as such, in the emission accounting, in the green planning, in the carbon offset, every market, there is a huge scope, especially in the software development. No, there even the GHG protocol, the baseline for the whole emission around the world, the framework, they have released an Excel sheet for carbon accounting, which I just showed. Digitalizing it is the first thing. And when it comes to sustainability, there are scope for startups to do the measurement and assessments, to provide a sustainable what sustainable products and healthy products. Even Vijay Vardhan sir, who was a prior faculty in SOMS, is doing a startup in ESD, fabrics and stuffs like that, I presume, if I'm not right, from his last update. So yeah, there is an uptrend, and the startups have huge scope. I personally wanted to start a startup up until I know more about the market, maybe in 2030. Yeah, so there is a huge scope.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, if there is nothing else, I'll wind up the call then. Or is there any questions?
Okay. So as we have um, had a great session, and we are not getting any questions as of now, we'll probably wind it up. Just
Perfect.
before that, so I would really like to thank everyone who has joined in, Razi, and we'll call Madhupriya for the vote of thanks. But just In between, this is the first program conducted by Alumni Relations Cell of SOMS NITC, and we are so happy that we have had a good audience, and then we have had a great uh, uh, person who has delivered this great session. And then it was really insightful, and there was a lot of new ideas and new insights that we have got from the session. I think much of us can really think about this, and this is a great opportunity to work on. We are also working on an alumni meet for 2022, and it is going to happen on January 22nd. We have just done the announcement, and more details would be updated soon. So I hope all of your corporations would be there for the further sessions, and we have more sessions coming on regarding this, and we also have pre-meet programs planned on. So expecting more corporations and support from everybody, including Razi. I would really like to thank Razi once again, and Madhupriya, please.
Yeah. Hi everyone. Good evening. I would like to thank Mr. Sharafudheen Razi for taking us through the possibilities of career development and opportunities in ESG. This session has surely opened our eyes and cleared our doubts. Once again, a huge thanks on behalf of Training and Placement Cell of SOMS. I would like to thank each and every person who have worked to make this session possible. I would like also thank each and every person like who joined this meeting and made it a success with your presence and participation. Thank you once again.